Chapter 12. For Jackson's company to run smoothly, he needed a very efficient assistant. He spent a month screening people and giving them a chance to show their skills and to demonstrate whether they knew his company well enough to be an asset. He had been through 3 assistants in less than a month. All of the men he interviewed were married, and the time he required of them didn't go over well with their families. Therefore, he decided to interview women. The next woman would be the 4th. The older women balked at the idea of incorporating technology and social media sites into their time. Therefore, even though he offered them generous pay packages, they refused. He needed to promote his position as head of the company. His marketing branch of the company would take care of some of his duties, but he had to maintain a presence on specific social websites. That meant having a close connection with the person who would write for him. When he couldn't answer his followers, his assistant would have to take over and maintain the site. He decided to interview younger women, and Victoria expressed her opposition to the idea. Summer spent the bulk of her remaining money on a round-trip ticket, leaving just enough for food. She would fly to San Francisco, and if all went well, she would return to Texas for her car. She could use her home in Texas as a vacation spot. Holding her resume in her shaky hands, she sat waiting in the lobby to be called. She didn't know how long she had been waiting. She should have had breakfast, but there was no time. Her stomach was growling like a hungry lion in the zoo. A man strode past her, and when she looked up, he spoke to the secretary. Then in a cold, dispassionate voice he said, "Follow me, Ms. Winters." She knew by his tone that she had wasted her time and money to travel so far, and for what? To be told she wasn't right for the position? And that she had no experience at being a personal assistant to an oil baron? Anyway, what exactly does a personal assistant do? She asked herself. She should have taken more time to research the company before she flew almost 1,600 miles. These thoughts clouded her mind and she couldn't concentrate on anything. She didn't see the handsome man in the dark gray pinstriped suit. His gaze was not on her but wandering somewhere beyond her. She didn't see that he was searching for something to ease his troubled mind. Summer trotted behind him into the office. "Have a seat, Ms. Winters." A tall, young, elegantly dressed man with his back to her walked straight to the panoramic window and leaned against it, staring out. "This is a beautiful city. Do you agree?" Summer detected no warmth or vitality in his voice. But she focused on landing the job. "Yes, sir, very beautiful." "You're not one of those people that will be a yes man, I mean a yes woman, are you?" He had a serious tone. "Because there is nothing more intolerable than someone who will tell you only what you want to hear. I fired my last assistant, who started every sentence with yes. Men are not like women. Women bring something unique to a job, honesty. Most of the time, women don't just tell you what you want to hear, they tell you what you need to hear. They have this sense of reading individuals. That's why I would prefer to have a woman work with me. Some women tell the truth more often than others." "Can you read people, Ms. Winters?" Jackson asked with a lack of emotion. "I like to think I can." "I guess you are being honest as you can be," he said, peering out and letting his gaze search the streets of the city without turning around to look at her. "What do you think of me and my company?" "I don't know you, Mr. Van Hughes, only what I've read, which isn't much. I think the newspapers reported that you are difficult." She gazed at him, hoping he would turn around. She wanted to look into his face. "Perhaps they were describing my father," he stated, placing a hand to his face. "The newspapers I read claimed that you were a top-notch football player, a rich, arrogant snob, and that you walked away from football because you had had enough of the game and too much money. You received the Heisman Trophy in your freshman year at Stanford, and you graduated from college as an engineer to create your own oil company after your father's business went bankrupt, and you would not lend him any money." "Oh. I'm afraid it was me the reporters were describing. Do you still want to work for me? He didn't wait for an answer before his next question. I want to know, what do you think of me? I think I don't know enough about the man and the full story to come to any conclusions. There are always many sides to one story. And I haven't heard yours. The papers were talking about the boy. Well said, Ms. Winters. You're hired. Just like that? You haven't even looked at me. I don't need to see you. I hear something in your voice that I admire, someone who speaks the truth and has integrity. I depend more on my other senses. Not my sense of sight. Your eyes can deceive you. Jackson still didn't turn around. He stood in a trance, hoping that some memory of his 3 years would return. It didn't have to be all of it, but any part of the puzzle, where he could connect the remaining parts and see the whole picture of his life. You may leave. I will see you tomorrow early. Be sure to go to personnel, and they will take care of everything. Summer rose to leave. Oh, there is one more thing, he said. My fiancée may give you looks, but don't mind her. She's very protective of me, since I will be spending a lot of time with you. Don't worry, Ms. Winter, I have no interest but one. My father's and grandfather's company have to be saved, and it will consume all of my spare time and your time. Wouldn't it be better if you hired a man then, instead of me? I want you. If you don't want the job, Ms. Winter, then say so now. No, sir. I want the job. Then be here early and expect to work late in the day, and maybe into the night. Chapter 13. Jackson arrived at 7 a.m., surprised to see Summer already sitting at her desk working on the computer with her back to him. He noticed her beautiful dark hair, not too long as to call attention to her, but cut shoulder length, all business but attractive and feminine. Passing her desk, he nodded and said, "Good morning." Summer raised her head to address him. Catching sight of his face, she was suddenly speechless, not moving, her breathing shallow, her heartbeat racing. "Adam," she murmured. Jackson stopped and looked straight at her. "You're getting an early start, Ms. Winter." She was dumbfounded, stunned. She glared at the handsome man with the cold, quiet voice, wearing a beautiful dark blue tailored pinstriped suit with a white shirt and gold cufflinks, and holding a leather satchel in his manicured hands. He smiled again and proceeded to his office. In less than a minute, he called Summer and asked her to bring in her iPad. He handed her some papers with a list of individuals to call for a meeting. He looked at her as if she was a piece of furniture, appearing to be looking right through her. It was clear to Summer that he didn't know her. Why doesn't he know me, she wondered. It was as if she didn't exist. After the meeting, Summer left Jackson staring at a stack of papers. She held onto her desk, afraid she would fall. She returned to Jackson's office for another assignment. You look tired, Ms. Winter. I'm fine, sir. He handed her more papers to complete. Commenting about her health meant nothing to him, she thought. He never once looked at her. It was like inquiring about what she ate for breakfast, making an observation about a sick cat or the weather. Contact my fiancée and inform her that I'll meet her for dinner. Make reservations for me at that French restaurant for 9 o'clock tonight. Afterwards, go home and get some rest. It's about 8. There are others that can handle the rest of the work. I don't want you getting sick. Yes, sir. But which restaurant is it? Oh, I forgot this is your first day. Summer stopped and Jackson looked up from his desk. What did you say was your first name? Summer. She glanced at him. Oh yes. That's a lovely name. Do you have a boyfriend? His voice became soft. Why is he asking or concerned about me in that way if he doesn't remember me? She thought. I haven't had a date since I've moved to San Francisco. Well, we are going to see about that. Maybe Victoria can set you up with a few of her friends. Mr. Van Hughes, if it's all the same, I would rather find my own dates, Summer said, upset. I apologize. I'm just trying to be helpful. Jackson looked down and then suddenly glanced upward with a better idea. Victoria is throwing a party for me, and I wonder if you would attend. I'd rather not, sir. I insist, Summer. Jackson's eyes darkened. You will learn that I always get my way. What time should I be there? You didn't say it was part of my duties to socialize with people I don't know. I'm glad you told me how you felt. I will not insist that you come, but if you do, it would make me happy and my father too, but I understand. Summer rushed from his office and ran to her private restroom. She couldn't bear another moment being near Jackson and not being able to touch him as she had done before. He had found his memory for his past, but it did not go far enough. She was not a part of that past. He didn't remember how much he loved her and how much she loved him. He didn't remember the nights they walked together in the moonlight and the night he made passionate love to her. She would never forget that night. Now he was getting married and he did not know who she was. When she returned to her desk, Jackson called her. Ms. Winter. I mean Summer. I forgot to tell you that you will need to accompany me to North Dakota for a meeting on Monday. I need your advice on some matters, and I need your company. Yes, sir. Why does he need my company? Doesn't he have enough with Victoria? Summer was jealous of Jackson's life, which existed before he met her. After all, he was only a high school boy when she first met him. My life had turned into a strange set of coincidences, she thought. Call me Jackson, Summer, he stated. I don't think. Jackson replied as if reading her mind. It's only right. You aren't like an employee. You're part of my family now. And Summer, I want you to meet my father. Why would Jackson want me to meet his father? She queried. She didn't want to be more involved with him than she had to. She became sick thinking of him. They were in different worlds, and she didn't belong in his. He was no longer blind, and he didn't know she existed. He was a millionaire with a beautiful fiancée. She was his employee. Reluctantly, Summer gathered her courage and agreed to go to Jackson's party. He arranged for a car to pick her up and bring her to his father's estate. Walking through the door, she heard music. Summer recognized some of the faces she had seen briefly in high school. It was his same group of friends, only they were a few years older and very prosperous. Some must have inherited their money because they appeared too young to afford the expensive cars, clothing, and diamonds for their dates. Glancing around the room and looking like a wallflower at the prom, Summer spotted someone she knew. It was Tiffany, who was laughing with another girl whom Summer didn't recognize. Tiffany wore the same hairstyle she had in high school. Summer walked over to her. Excuse me. The girl looked Summer up and down, turned her back, and left Tiffany. Tiffany, don't you recognize me? Why would I recognize you? I've never seen you before in my life. Do you know how long it took to get in this circle? I'm sure you have been working on it since you were in junior high, Summer quipped. Wait a minute. You can't be. Tiffany's mouth fell open. She grabbed Summer and hugged her. Yes, I am, Summer said, trying to hide her excitement. You look so sophisticated. So different, Summer. Does Jackson know who you are? I'm working for him as his personal assistant. Get the fuck out of here. Really? I'm his personal assistant, Summer said. Does Victoria know? No. Why would she? She doesn't know me and I don't know her. Jackson doesn't even remember me. I heard he had this accident. Tiffany whispered. Yes, I know. He's coming this way, Summer. Who? Jackson. Don't leave me, Tiffany. I don't want to be with him alone. Don't worry, as soon as Victoria sees you talking to Jackson, you two won't be alone for long. Bye. Text me. I have the same number. Never left home, Tiffany whispered, rushing into the next room. Jackson stood gazing at Summer. You came. Let me introduce you to my father. He led the way to the library, where Victoria was chatting with Jackson Sr. Oh, and who do you have with you? Victoria asked with a wide smile. This is my personal assistant, Jackson said without emotion. Summer held out her hand to Victoria, but Victoria ignored it and walked past her, saying, Nice to meet you. I'm sure we will see a lot of each other. Summer nodded and Victoria walked out of the room, leaving Summer alone with the two Van Hughes. She stood in the same spot. Come over her, Summer, and let me see who my son has chosen to cause problems before he's married, the older man said. I'm not here to cause him any problems but to help him with his company, Summer answered dryly. Jackson smiled and raised an eyebrow at his father. You're a smart girl. My son chose wisely, Jackson Sr. said, adding, My son has been a playboy and his fiancée may be somewhat cautious because he has found a beautiful girl to work with him all times of the night. I assure you, Mr. Van Hughes, I didn't come to this company looking for a husband, Summer said, trading glances back and forth with Jackson and his father. She's all right, Jackson. I think you have a keeper.